One day, Roberto appeared at a major scientific conference. In front of his colleagues, he presented the results of his research. He spoke about the artificial skin gel that he had carefully developed. According to him, this skin could bond tightly to the human body without rejection or allergic reaction. It could resist fire and insect bites. For patients who suffered severe burns, this would be a miracle. It could not only save their lives, but also restore their bodies to what they once were. His words left the entire hall shocked. Some sat in silence, others whispered with doubt. After the lecture, a professor approached Roberto. He pulled him aside and quietly asked how he had managed to overcome the greatest barrier, the durability of skin. Roberto did not avoid the question. He admitted he had used genetic modification. He said he had fused human skin cells with pig skin cells. Pig skin was stronger and more resilient, which made the artificial skin capable of withstanding fire and insects. When the professor heard this, he reacted with anger. He could not believe his ears. He demanded to know if Roberto had lost his mind. Genetic modification of the human body was forbidden. It crossed every ethical line. Roberto quickly defended himself. He said it was only personal research with no plan for commercial use and no desire for profit. Yet his eyes still shone with pride. He believed he had gone one step further than all of mankind. That night, Roberto returned to the mansion. He walked straight into the room where Vera was being held. On her body, the artificial skin shimmered under the light. Roberto gazed at her as an artist admires a masterpiece. He touched the surface of that skin with pride. In his eyes, there was not only the coldness of a doctor, but also a strange affection like the passion of a man toward a woman. Vera looked back at him, her eyes filled with fear and despair. She knew she was nothing more than a test subject cut and stitched again and again to satisfy his ambition. Marilia saw everything. She knew Roberto had succeeded, but she also felt horrified. She advised him to stop and release Vera before disaster struck. Roberto refused. He said the project was far from over. He wanted not only durable skin, but perfect skin. To make sure no one discovered his secret, he ordered Marilia to dismiss all the other servants. The mansion was now left with only Roberto, Vera, and Marilia, a hidden prison disguised as a peaceful estate. One hot afternoon, the iron gate of the mansion echoed with noise. A man in a tiger costume appeared. It was Zika, Marilia's long-lost son. He had just robbed a jewelry store with his gang and was being hunted by the police. Zika rushed to his mother, begging for shelter. Marilia was shocked to see her son return in such a filthy state, drenched in sweat, with eyes full of cunning. She immediately refused. She knew his presence could bring disaster, but Zika was defiant and ignored her words. He walked inside, opened a bottle of wine, and roamed the house as if it belonged to him. While wandering, he caught sight of the surveillance screens. On them was the image of Vera practicing yoga in the locked room. Desire consumed him at once. He stared like a starving beast at prey. He questioned his mother about the woman, but Marilia panicked and tried to stop him. She screamed for him to leave, but suspicion had already taken root. In a rage, he tied Marilia to a chair and snatched the key to the room. Inside, Vera heard strange noises through the intercom. She called for Marilia but received no answer. Her heart pounded. She sensed danger approaching. She hid behind the door, her eyes tense with fear. When Zika opened the door, she suddenly kicked and tried to escape, but she was no match for his strength. Zika overpowered her and dragged her back inside. The scene grew suffocating as he assaulted Vera with brutal violence. At that moment, Roberto returned. He rushed into the room and froze at the horrific sight. His face burned red with fury. Without hesitation, he pulled out a gun and fired twice. Zika collapsed instantly, blood spilling across the floor. The gunshots echoed through the mansion, filling the air with dread. Marilia watched in despair as her only son died before her eyes, yet she did not call the police. Instead, she helped Roberto clean the crime scene as if Zika's death was just another sin in a house already cursed. Vera saw it all, her mind spinning with questions. Why was a mother so calm at the death of her child? Why did she help the man who killed him? That night, Marilia sat alone in the dark. She called Vera and revealed a shocking truth. She confessed that she was Roberto's real mother. Years ago, when the master of the mansion could not have children with his wife, he had secretly fathered Roberto with Marilia. Zika was born from another affair. This meant Roberto and Zika were in fact half-brothers. Vera stood frozen by the revelation. The mansion was a web of twisted bloodlines and secrets. After revealing the truth about the family, Marilia continued with another tragedy that had destroyed Roberto. His wife was named Gal. She was once beautiful, charming, and Roberto's pride, yet her love for him faded. Gal betrayed him and had an affair with Zika. One day they planned to run away together. During their escape, a terrible accident occurred. Their car veered off the road and burst into flames. Zika panicked and fled, leaving Gal trapped in the fire. When Roberto arrived, he saw his wife's body burned almost beyond recognition. He rushed into the flames to save her. Gal survived, but her face and body were horribly disfigured. Roberto brought her back to the mansion, devoting all his strength to treatment, hoping one day he could create new skin to restore her beauty. But Gal could not accept reality. One night, while listening to her daughter Norma singing outside the window, she left her bed for the first time since the accident. She opened the window to breathe the air, but when she saw her distorted reflection in the glass, she broke down in panic. In despair, she hurled herself from the window to her death. Norma watched in horror as her mother's body struck the ground. The scene left a permanent scar on the young girl. She screamed in agony and fell into deep depression. Roberto stood frozen as he watched his wife kill herself, leaving him and his daughter in tragedy. Time passed and Norma grew up, but the trauma never left her. At an outdoor party, she met a young man named Vicente. They talked and laughed and then walked into the garden together. Vicente, driven by youthful impulse, tried to go further. In that moment, Norma's mental illness returned. She screamed suddenly and flailed in panic. Vicente feared that others would think he was attacking her. In desperation, he slapped her and she fainted. Terrified, he ran away. From a distance, Roberto had witnessed everything. He rushed to his daughter and held her trembling in his arms. But when Norma awoke, she mistook Roberto for the attacker. Her unstable mind made her resist and fear him. She even grew to hate her father. From that time, Norma's condition worsened. She suffered frequent breakdowns and could not control herself. Eventually, she was placed in a psychiatric hospital. Roberto was devastated. Yet the torment did not end there. Not long after, he received the devastating news that Norma had hanged herself in the hospital. The pain of losing his wife was still raw, and now he lost his only daughter. His life plunged into total darkness filled with despair and hatred. In his eyes, Vicente was the one responsible. He believed Vicente had destroyed his daughter and stolen the last thing he had left after his wife's death. From that moment, hatred consumed him. But Roberto did not kill Vicente right away. Instead, he planned a slow and cruel revenge. After Norma's death, Roberto had nothing left to lose. His heart was empty, yet a burning obsession devoured him. Vicente became the sole target of his rage. One day, while Vicente was riding his motorcycle on a mountain road, Roberto ambushed him. He drugged him and carried him back to the mansion. From that moment, Vicente was no longer a free young man. He was imprisoned in a cold room without sunlight, surrounded only by steel walls and cameras watching every move. At first, Vicente resisted with all his strength. He screamed and broke things and tried to find a way to escape. But Roberto had planned for this. He reinforced the room with metal and installed cameras that recorded every breath. Vicente became prey in a cage under constant surveillance. In the beginning, Roberto did nothing. He let Vicente weaken day by day, consumed by despair. Then he began the surgeries. First came minor operations on his face. He cut, stitched, and reshaped every feature, turning Vicente into someone else. Then came harsher procedures on his entire body. Layers of skin were peeled away and replaced with the artificial skin Gal he had developed. Vicente endured unbearable pain. Each time he awoke from surgery, his body had changed. Sometimes it was covered with stitches. Sometimes parts of it were unrecognizable. Roberto was not only reshaping his body, but destroying his identity. He forced Vicente to wear dresses to walk and behave like a woman. Whenever he resisted, punishment was brutal. The cruelty did not end there. Roberto made Vicente look into mirrors at the unfamiliar face staring back. At first, Vicente screamed and cursed, but with time he fell silent. The torment broke him. His spirit collapsed. Vicente ceased to exist. A new name was given, Vera. Roberto called him Vera, ignoring the cries of the man erased within. Many times Vera tried to take her life. She slashed her veins or tried to hang herself with sheets. Each time Roberto stopped it, not out of pity, but to preserve his precious experiment. To him, Vera was no longer human. She was the pinnacle of science, the embodiment of his lost wife, and the perfect revenge on Vicente. Marilia silently witnessed everything. She saw her son sinking deeper into darkness. Instead of stopping him, she assisted. She cleaned the rooms, prepared medicine, and protected his secret. To her, this family had long been cursed, and she could only stand by her son until the end. Years passed, and Vicente was completely transformed into Vera. At this point, Roberto no longer saw a prisoner or an enemy. He saw his greatest creation. He forced her to wear tight suits to protect the new skin. He inspected every stitch with the passion of an artist admiring his sculpture. To him, Vera was proof of his triumph in science and the substitute for his lost wife, Gal. His attitude toward her changed. Cold control shifted into a twisted affection, a mix of desire and obsession. Sometimes he looked at her like a man in love. Other times like a doctor proud of his work. The line between love and possession blurred. Vera understood this. She had to adapt to survive. She pretended to obey. She spoke gently to deceive him. She practiced yoga each day to remain calm, but inside she longed to escape. Marilia sensed the danger. She warned Roberto that what he held was not art, but a living person with a mind of her own. Roberto ignored her. He believed Vera had accepted her fate. One day he let her out of the room to test her. He allowed her to walk around the house. He taught her cooking, sewing, and reading. It was like a false family. He took Vera out shopping. For the first time in years, she stepped onto the streets. Yet wherever she went, he stayed close. She did not act. She knew one mistake could make him suspicious and lock her up again. Back at the mansion, she acted even more obedient. She cooked, cared for him, and even lay beside him like a wife. His trust grew. He no longer saw Vera as a prisoner, but as a companion. He forgot that beneath her soft exterior, Vicente was waiting. The storm came on a night of heavy rain. After dinner, they sat in the bedroom. Roberto placed his gun on the nightstand as he always did. He drank wine and lowered his guard. Vera approached, caressing him gently, then seized the gun. Her eyes hardened. She was no longer Vera the fragile woman, but Vicente the man whose life had been stolen. She fired twice. Roberto fell dead on the bed. His obsessions and crimes ended in an instant. Marilia rushed in when she heard the shots. She froze at the sight of Roberto lying motionless. Vera quickly gathered her things and fled the mansion. She drove through the rain back to the city where her old memories remained. She went to her mother's clothing shop. The old woman was stunned when a strange young woman stood at the door claiming to be Vicente. With a trembling voice, Vera said, "It was me. I am Vicente."